Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello, dear students. Welcome to another lecture. Now, in this class, we are going to begin with the third poem of your Class 12 Alternative English for Nagaland Board, which is My Last Duchess. Now, this poem is written by Robert Browning, a very renowned poet we all have heard of. In this poem, the poet talks about the Duke of Ferrara. Okay, so the Duke whose name was Ferrara. Now, this Duke was known for his eccentric mannerism and character. So, eccentric means strange. He was a very strange kind of a man. His character was very strange and something that cannot be easily identified in common day-to-day man. In this poem, the poet tells us that there was a messenger who was sent by a count, another prince, another king, who wished his daughter to be married to this Duke of Ferrara. When the messenger had come, bringing that message from the side of his master, our Duke of Ferrara started telling him a story. About whom? About his own wife, whom he had got murdered. And why did he get his wife murdered? He murdered, or rather he got his wife murdered because he did not like the way his wife was good to everyone. His wife has been portrayed as a very kind-hearted, a very generous, a good soul who was equally good to everyone. For her, a big, precious necklace held the same value as a small flower. For her, it was important to greet everybody with a smile. And our Duke could not bear that. He had a lot of problem with the way his wife had behaved and therefore he got his wife murdered. After, his wife was murdered, the Duke made this messenger look at a painting that was made of his wife by Fra Pendolf, who was a priest. And he also expressed his doubt that according to him, Fra Pendolf and his wife had an affair. Because he felt that the beauty with which the intricate details that Fra Pendolf had used to paint his wife was something that was not easily possible for any stranger to have crafted that, with such beauty. So therefore, the Duke, under the pretense that obviously his wife did not bear a good character, he got his wife murdered. And this poem that we are going to read was what he told his the messenger of the count who had come with a proposal of the daughter's wedding of his master. So let us start reading the poem and understand what it means. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. So, as I told you, the Duke of Ferrara was showing that painting to the messenger of the count and was telling him about the painting as well as his wife. So the last Duchess said, this painting you can see on the wall is of my last Duchess. And it looks, just look at the beauty with which the painting has been made. It looks that she were alive, the painting looks very real. You might feel that she is alive when you look at the painting. I call that piece a wonder. He says that for me, this painting, I call it a wonder. That piece means that this painting, which has been painted by Fra Pendolf, I call it a wonder. This is beautiful. This is amazing. Surprisingly amazing painting has been made by him. Now, Fra Pendol's hand worked busily a day, and there she stands. Fra Pendolf. Now, Fra, as has been told in your vocabulary, is the short form, in the Latin language, and it is basically used to represent a priest of a church. So, Fra Pendolf was a priest of a church. So, our Duke told the messenger that Fra Pendolf's hands worked busy a day. It took him one complete day to finish that painting, and there she stands. So, he took one entire day, he painted it beautifully, and there the painting is in front of you. Wilt please you sit and look at her? So the Duke requested the messenger to sit. Wilt please you? So would you please sit and look at the beautiful painting of my wife? I said, Fra Pendolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance. So he says, let me read the next line, then I'll explain it to you all together. Fra Pendolf by design, for never breed strangers like you, that pictured countenance, the depth of its earnest glance. So what does he say? As I told you at the beginning, he was of the opinion that his wife was, had an affair with the priest, Fra Pendolf. So the Duke over here commented that according to him, for a stranger like you to just have a look at to just have a look at somebody's face and paint it beautifully is not easy, is not something which is possible. Fra Pendolf has created a wonderful design, and that shows that his glance, the way he looked at my wife, was very deep and was full of passion. That he looked at my wife very passionately. He looked at my wife for a long time, and only then it was possible for him to paint her in such a beautiful manner. Because for a stranger like you, just looking at somebody's face and painting it on the wall and depicting it so beautifully is something which is not possible at all. So what have we read so far? The Duke introduced his last Duchess, his last wife, to the envoy, to the messenger of the Count, telling him that she was his last Duchess, and that the painting has been made by Fra Pendolf, and that according to him the painting seemed as if his wife was alive. Then he also talked about how he believed that Fra Pendolf's relation with his wife was certainly not that of just a stranger, because for a stranger to just have a look at somebody and create a painting so beautifully is not possible at all. Let us move ahead. Yes. Yes. But to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you, but I. So he says that to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you. This curtain that covers the painting of my last Duchess cannot be drawn aside, cannot be opened by anyone but me. So to myself they turned, this is what I believed when I looked at my wife's painting, that one needed a very passionate and a very deep eye to look at her and paint it. and therefore nobody else is allowed to draw the curtain aside and to have a look at her. And seemed as they would ask me, if they durst, how such a glance came there. So he says that, whenever I draw out the curtain for anyone so that they may have a look at my wife's painting, it seems to me that they want to ask if they durst, dared. So the people who look at the painting of my wife, they have this question to ask me, but they do not dare to. And what is the question that they want to ask me? How such a glance came there? How come Fra Pendolf was able to look at your wife with such depth and passion? So not the first are you to turn and ask thus. So he says that don't worry, if the same question has come to your mind also, you are not the first one who has, in whose mind this thought has come. So everyone who looks at my wife's painting has the same opinion, has the same question in their mind, then how could Fra Pendolf get the vision, get that glance, with the help of which he was able to craft, using which he was able to paint this portrait of your wife in such a beautiful manner. Sir, it was not her husband's presence only called the spot of joy into the Duchess' cheek. He says, sir, he has used to address the envoy, the messenger. So he talks to the messenger and he says that, sir, T was means it was. You must be thinking the reason why my wife is smiling in the portrait. So let me tell you, it was not her husband's presence. It is not that because I was present in front of her when this painting was being made that brought the joy into the Duchess's cheek. So the reason why the Duchess is smiling and there was so much of glow on the face of my last Duchess is not because I was standing in front of her. So if you are wondering that that is the reason for her seeming so happy, then let me tell you it is not the case. Perhaps Fra Pendolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. So, he is saying perhaps. The usage of the word perhaps in itself clarifies that the Duke was not sure about anything. This is all what was a figment of his own imagination. He was just too sure that his wife was in an affair with the priest that he had concocted these stories in his brain. He has made up these stories in his brains. So he says that maybe Fra Pendolf chanced to say that maybe Fra Pendolf had said to her that your mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Mantle laps, the sweater that you are wearing, its laps, its sleeves are covering your wrist. Maybe this is what the priest would have told her that made her smile. Or he might have said, paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. Or the priest might have told the Duchess that this flush, this glow, this redness that is there on her cheeks, it is not possible for any painter to paint that on a canvas. So maybe these two things were spoken by the priest that made my wife's face glow and that made my wife happy. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. He says that for my wife, anything like that was courtesy. According to her, when anyone said anything nice about her, she took it in a very polite manner. She thought it to be very kind of the other person to say good things to her, and they were enough to make her happy. So anyone, anything good that they would have said to my wife, that made her happy. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad. So now he's trying to tell us about his wife. He says that my wife's heart was too soon to make her glad. Glad, happy. Anybody could have made my wife happy very easily. So it was not a difficult task to make my wife happy. Anyone could have done that. Too easily impressed. So he says that my wife could be easily impressed by anyone. He liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So he says that whatever my wife looked at, she liked it, and she looked everywhere. So you see, everything that the wife saw, she liked it, and she looked everywhere as well. So that means that everything around her was liked by the last Duchess of this view. This is what he tries to tell us. He's trying to convey to us that his wife was too easily impressed, and anyone could have made her happy. Any comment could have made her happy because she took everything as a courtesy. She took everything as very polite. Okay. So, it was all one. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bow of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace. So, he says that, sir, it was all one. It was all one means everything was same for my wife. Everything held the equal importance in my wife's heart. Be it my favor at her breast, favor, a brooch. We all know what is a brooch, something which is worn on the chest. So he says that even if I bought for her a very expensive brooch that she could adorn, that she could, just, boast about to the other people because she was a duchess and surely the brooch would have been very, very expensive. So be it a very expensive brooch that was put on her chest, or the dropping of the daylight in the west, when the sun sets in the west, that also made her happy. Or a bow of cherries, maybe a bunch of cherries that some officious fool, officious is an adjective that we use for those people who are very good at buttering. Okay, who would do something to you with the sole intention of flattering you. So he says that there were some fools who would get into an orchard, who would get into a garden which grew fruits and would get her a bunch of cherries. That also made her equally happy. Or the white mule she rode with round the terrace. Mule is a baby horse. So riding on a white horse on the terrace, this also made her happy. So he's talked about four things, four different kinds of things, and he wants us to know that no matter how different, how big, how small these things were, everything made his wife happy. An expensive brooch that she would wear on her chest, the sun setting in the west, a bunch of cherries that was brought for her by some fool, or riding a horse, a white horse on the terrace. So everything was same for her. All and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. He says that everything that I have just mentioned to you would force her to say the same things about them. Speech is to speak. So she would always speak the same things about whatever thing she came across. She was always happy. She always said the best. She always was kind about everything that was done for her, and she praised everything in an equal manner. She never mattered about the price or the cost or the value of the gift that was given to her, or blush at least. So either she would speak and express how happy she was with your gift, or she would only blush. She would only pass a smile to you with her red cheek, and that would be enough for you to know that she has approved of the gift you brought her. She thanked men good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. He says that she thanked men. So she thanked everybody who gifted her one thing or the other, which is a good part. But she thanked everyone. And he says, I know not how, I don't know how, she ranked my gift of a 900-year-old name with anybody's gift. Here, when he says my 900-year-old name, he refers to his legacy, that his name, his family is 900 years old. So they are highly respectable, they are highly honored by people. And for my wife, she always weighed the gifts that I gave her, I who have such a great legacy behind me, the gifts which were given to her by anybody in the same scale. So everything was same to her. So he did not like it. He said, who would stoop to blame this sort of tripling? He says that who would stoop? Stoop means bend down. Trifling means this insulting behavior. For the Duke, this obviously was an insult that his wife did not lay any importance to the gifts that were given by him to her. So he says that who is going to bend so low and tell her that the kind of attitude that she carries, that what she is doing is highly insulting. So for the Duke, he felt insulted was one thing. But according to him, conveying this to his wife was equally insulting. He says, even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one. He says that even you have the skill. So he talks to the messenger and says that even you seem to be very skillful to me. You seem to be highly efficient to me in conveying your message to the other person. But I don't have this talent. So he said that I am very humble and I don't have this talent to convey my feelings to somebody else. And say, just this or that in you disgusts me. He says, I never had this, capability. I never had this ability to say to my wife that this or that you are doing makes me feel disgusted. That I totally dislike what you do. Or here you miss. That this is something you've done wrong. Or there exceed the mark, or this is something that you've done over the top. You have done extra for somebody. And if she herself be lessened so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth and made excuse. Even then would be some stooping. He says that if, I would have said this to my wife that what you are doing is wrong, what you are doing is incorrect, what you are doing is making me feel insulted. If she would have listened to that and would have learned a lesson from it, or plainly set her wits to yours, or simply set her wits to yours, wits means intelligence, or simply she would have said that whatever you are saying is absolutely correct and I'm going to follow that. Forsooth, she would have believed in you and made excuse, or she would have made excuse. So there are two alternatives that the Duke mentions here. He says that if he would have told his wife that she was doing wrong, that what she was doing was actually hurting him, there were two things that might have turned out. A, her wife would have made an excuse, or she would have learned a lesson and would have accepted her errors and said that now she is going to do things as per her husband. So these were the two options that the Duke says would have been possible. Even then would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. He says, even if my wife would have taken one of these alternatives, then also that would have meant that I have been insulted. That would have meant that I have bent down in front of my wife in order to tell her that you are wrong. And I choose never to stoop. He says that I never choose to bend down in front of anyone. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. But who passed without much the same smile? He further says that yes, whenever I met my wife, whenever she came in front of me, she always smiled. But who does not? Whenever you meet somebody, they smile for you, they smile in front of you. This grew. I gave commands, then all her smiles stopped together. So he says that this grew. The way she would smile at everyone, this continued to grow. She continued to smile for anyone and everyone. And therefore I got angry. I gave commands, I gave orders to my people, and all her smiles stopped together. All her smiles stopped together indicate that she was murdered. It was then that she was murdered on the Duke's command. There she stands as if alive, and now you can see she's standing in front of us as if she were alive. Will it please you rise? And now he asks the messenger to get up. That will you please get up? We'll meet the company below them. The company means the group of people who were waiting below. Now, since the word below is used, so we assume that they were probably on the first floor and there were a group of people who were there on the ground floor. So he told the messenger to get up so that they can go below and meet the other people. I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. He says that I repeat, I am telling you that your master, who is the Count, your master whose wife's, whose daughter's proposal you have brought for me, he is known for his munificence. Munificence, he is known for his generosity. He is known for his big heart. And that is an ample warrant. And that is a clear, indication to me that under no pretense, that under no circumstances, the dowry that I have asked for in return of this marriage is going to be disallowed. So he says that I know that your master is a very generous man, and under no circumstances he is going to say no to me for the dowry that I have asked for. Though his fair daughter's self, as I award at starting, is my object. He says, although in the beginning only I have made it very clear that my object, my primary focus is his daughter. This is what I award. This is what I have assured you, that though I am going to demand dowry, which I know that the Count will give to me, but for me, what is important is to marry this beautiful girl. Nay, we'll go together down, sir. So he told him that, sir, we will go down together. Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse. Neptune is the sea god, the god of the sea. So probably he came across another painting, another portrait that had the sea god Neptune, who was trying to tame, who was trying to control a seahorse. So he says, did you notice this beautiful painting of the Neptune who's trying to tame the seahorse? Thought a rarity. This painting is very rare. It is not easily found anywhere, which Klaus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. So he is boasting in the last line, where he says that this painting is rare. And what makes it rarer is the fact that this is made in bronze, specially for me by Klaus of Innsbruck. So this is the sculptor who has made this painting. So he's boasting about in the last line that this painting was made specifically for me by the Inns of Klausburg in. So with this, my dear students, we come to the end of the explanation of this poem. Now, what did we read about in this poem? As we read that the poem is written by Robert Browning. In the poem, the Duke of Ferrara is seen talking to an envoy of a count, messenger of a count, who sent a proposal for his daughter's wedding to the Duke. The Duke showed to him the painting of his last Duchess and told him that it was a wonderful piece of art. He also praised the priest Fra Pendolf who had painted it, although he pointed out that the depth and the passion with which Fra Pendolf has painted it is very rare, because a stranger is not, a stranger cannot paint something so perfect. But he says that this is a question which everybody has in mind when they look at my wife's painting. He further says that you must be wondering that the smile that my wife has on her face is because I was standing in front of her. But I believe it was probably because of a comment that Fra Pendolf has made, maybe of the falling sleeve on her arm, or the blush that was there on her face, which according to Fra Pendolf was difficult to paint on a canvas. He further said that for his wife, everybody and everything was equal. Every gift that was given to her, either by me, a very expensive, precious brooch, or something like the setting of the sun in the west, a bunch of cherries, or riding on a white horse, everything had the same value. She talked to everyone in the same manner. She smiled to everyone. And this is what made the Duke feel insulted. And thus he ordered to have her killed. So he then told the envoy that now I think we should go down to meet the other people. But tell your master that I know he has a generous heart, and the dowry that I have demanded for is going to be given to me. although my primary objective is to marry his daughter. And then at the end, he showed to him a portrait which was made in bronze by the Klaus of Innsbruck, saying that this portrait of Neptune was made specifically for him. So this makes us believe how eccentric, how strange this king was. I'm going to pause here and we'll take up the discussion of its fact exercises in my next video. So I shall see you all now in my next lecture.